Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Scott.
I'm Shatay, and we're the Hazes.
Welcome to the Love Haze, where we believe that healing and wholeness are not just destinations.
That's right, we believe it's a journey, and here on the Love Haze, we talk about how to navigate through it.
Today, we're going to talk about reconciling the books on old versions of ourselves by healing them and giving them the love they deserve.
Amen.
Welcome to our Black love journey. Let's get into it.
Let's go. So, past versions of ourselves. I'm so excited to talk about this topic.
Yeah.
So, everybody evolves, as we should. And have you ever cringed at the idea, at the thought of something you've done in the past? I know I have a lot of
Yes.
cringe-worthy moments, and it'll be stuff from high school, why did I do that? And I had this, my first therapist actually, who I was with for some time, had given me this tool to write letters to things, ideas, people that I felt like I still needed closure on. And this idea came around about wanting closure. I guess closure can be a version of healing, and maybe they're synonymous, on old things, old versions of myself, and how to go about that. And I really had this impression one day, I really want to go back to different versions of myself and just love on her. I want to just show her some love. And it came out of this idea of I do believe that I'm whole. I do love who I have become. But then there's just mistakes that I've made that can sometimes still come up. But I think in order to maybe heal from those situations, also heal whoever I was at that time, and not just the person I am right now. So the thought is, how do we do that? What does that even look like? Do you have any thoughts on old versions of Scott and loving on him?
Listen, let me tell you, the old versions of Scott need all the love. For a long time, I really had a whole bunch of regrets.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of stuff that I could look back and kind of was trying to I was in my effort to kind of right the ship. I think I was looking okay, well, what did you make your mistake here? And what did you do there? And what did that look like? How do we want to move forward and not go back to those mistakes we made in the past? And I think a part of the original work that I didn't do was just kind of forgiving that guy. Little fella just didn't know any better. Big fella didn't know any better. And sometimes when he did know better, he still made a bad choice.
Yeah.
And I think this idea of just kind of revisiting that and loving on that person is something that's super necessary. But also I honor him for those things, because in this version of myself, Scott version 44.4, we balling.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing. So talking about it with current therapist that I stole from you.
Yes, you did.
Whom I love dearly. And just talking through, doing psychotherapy, connecting things that from my past that are showing up today. And I think she was, if I'm remembering correctly, just calling out that, inner child sometimes shows up, and there are things that, I guess, how to acknowledge her and love her and support her. And so that's kind of another reason all of this came up. Well, if I am going to love and support little me, I'm sure there are other versions of me that I wasn't so kind to, that I still judge when I cringe at the things that she said or did, or the mistakes that she made, that I really could stand to just go back and have some grace for me. And it's really a part of accepting all the parts of me. It's really loving all the parts of me, flaws and all, not judging other parts. It's all wrapped up in self-love and trying to become the highest version of myself. That quite honestly I haven't fully dove into yet, but it's something that I have a really strong desire to do.
The connection for me, and I have to actively work my way through this, is we've talked about triggers before, right? had some great conversation around triggers, but it made me think of, um, sometimes when I'm triggered by something, sometimes it's like a old version of me or a younger version of me that is still needing that thing,
Yeah.
and still reminding me that they are there, and still maybe not all the way there,
Mhm.
and is needing just acceptance
Yeah.
from me
Yeah.
as this version of myself, and just that little that little voice that you have sometimes inside your head. I think sometimes it's like the old versions of ourselves just being like, "Hey, I'm still here. I still feel bad that you had to go through that because of the decision that I made."
Yeah.
And yes, I'm smarter now. Yes, I'm more emotionally stable,
Mhm.
better able to kind of wrap my mind around things when they happen. But yeah, there's still this past version of myself that just kind of needs that love, that place, that scar that we still have that reminds us of the place. No, we don't go back there, but there's still that injury that is there. That is a younger version of ourselves that maybe didn't operate the best.
Yeah. Because they were had their own set of traumas
Hmm.
and limiting beliefs. And yeah, I'm just sitting here thinking about, in terms of triggers, they probably do still come up because who we were when that hurt or trauma happened
Hmm.
is still like dealing with that. Like
Hmm.
we've moved on or learned how to cope in some way to become who we are right now,
Hmm.
but there's still a part of us, that part of us that is like maybe not fully that's stuck there a little
Hmm.
bit. And so how do we bring that part of us with who we are, bring them here with us today. Um, yeah. Do you feel like any of your past versions, like of yourself, still show up today in your current life?
Yeah, yeah. Of course, those are those things that tell me that I need to use my words in relationships. You know, the lesson, and it is that I may have learned from that past version of myself is never leave words unsaid,
Yeah.
right? I always say what it is that you're feeling. If it's healthy for you, if it's helping a person to learn how to love you better, if it's something that just needs to be said that you don't want to have that regret for, just say it. And then I think the next step in that work is, telling 28-year-old Scott that I forgive you for not saying that.
Mm,
And the way that I am showing up for you in that loss is that 44-year-old me will never let us do that again. We'll
mm.
always make sure that we have the difficult conversations.
Yeah, I'm processing through what it is that my younger selves might need. And so you just touched on forgiveness. And I think I want to approach them with grace, the same grace that I give to other people. I
Hmm.
want to approach them and try, and this kind of maybe start to get into the haze of it. I didn't know that we were going to be at this part of the conversation so quickly, but um how do I approach them with acceptance and not non-judgment and just say, "Hey, I see you. I'm proud of you. I love you." Um is it forgiveness if we love who we are right now and those things that we went through makes us who we are right now? So is it necessarily that any wrong choices were made? Just trying to negotiate or navigate like what does past me need in order to feel seen and to feel enough? I think that's the grounding thought. What do you need to feel seen and to feel enough so that we
Hmm.
can let go of this situation that happened and that we can all move on together?
I believe that you and your past self kind of have to have that conversation,
Yeah.
and figure out what it means. I think that's what the exercise that your therapist had you do was really about, like writing it out. Like often my thoughts, um, I can have an internal battle in my mind, and go back and forth all day. But when I write things down, like the clarity
Mhm.
kind of comes,
Mhm.
you know, and those are those things that, you know, the conversations that I often need to have. And it's not like I'm outside of my body having a conversation with, this other person. I ain't talking to myself, y'all. I'm
Mhm.
really, just letting that past version of myself know that I see you
Mhm.
and I honor you. Like without you, there would be like no me, with the level of understanding that I have now. Had we not made that choice, um, our life wouldn't have gone in this direction.
Yeah, but what's wrong with talking to ourselves? Like, aren't there exercises, for example, like when people say, look at yourself in the mirror and say this thing,
Hmm.
And so there is real power in saying, like, Shate, I love you in the mirror,
Yeah, those
Or,
affirmations are important.
yeah, or like when people say, like, wrap your arms around yourself and hug yourself to actually like embrace yourself. I think there is power in that. So I guess I just want to say, like, even if you are talking to yourself, I think
Yeah, absolutely.
that's okay, because
Yeah,
maybe
I
that's
was
what.
I was just being silly in that moment, but absolutely, I believe in that. I believe in it. Sometimes it seems silly to like physically embrace yourself, but I
Yeah,
mean, really, you are. That's just a physical manifestation of things that we should be doing, that inner work that we should be doing all the time.
exactly. And I remember the first time I was aware that maybe I had a challenge with feeling enough. I was reading something, can't even remember what book it was at the time, and this I was like a full on adult. This may have been 2014 or 15, so that's not that super long ago. And I remember saying to myself or having this impression in my spirit that was like, you're enough. You are enough. And I remember just like bawling, like being
Hmm.
burst into tears because that really like hit a nerve for me that I
Hmm.
didn't even realize was a thing. And then, so back to an episode that we talked about, when I'm hysterical, it's historical. I knew
Hmm.
immediately, like, oh, if I have this response to this thought, that must mean that I've been operating from a belief that maybe I'm not
Hmm.
enough. That I'm always trying to um, work my way into love or
Hmm.
work my way into acceptance. Not necessarily for those around me, but maybe to myself.
Hmm.
Maybe with my relationship with God. Like maybe I feel like things I've done in the past, I've got to like overcompensate for mistakes that I've made. I got to
Hmm.
make it up to myself, in some kind of way. And there probably is still some of that lingering. I don't know
Hmm.
that that process, that journey is ever done, especially if I believe we're I'm on a constant path to like evolving to the highest version of myself.
Hmm.
And so that means there's a lot of versions that I've gone through
Yeah.
that, I could be acknowledging on the way or
Hmm.
being kinder to or loving more.
Hmm. Um, you know, when I think about the times that I've cried when something like that has happened for me, and I felt like it struck a nerve,
Mhm.
I think that may be, that version of me, like being like, damn,
Mm.
Scott 44.4 sees me. He acknowledges me.
Mm.
What if
I
that
like
is a
that thought.
release?
Yeah.
You know what I'm
I
saying?
like
Of
that.
that past version of myself being like, okay,
Mhm.
this needed to happen.
Mhm.
Like, and this is a reminder that I'm still here. I was a part of this journey.
Yeah.
Those types of things. Um, I gotta bring this up.
What?
Um, so shout out to Amazon Prime, because I wanted a train
I'm so
to
glad you
go
brought this
around
up.
our Christmas tree. I've wanted a train to go around my Christmas tree probably since I was 8 or 9 years old. Never had a train to go around the tree. And Shante and I were sitting here yesterday, and she put up the tree on Friday. And I was like, babe, I really want a train to go around the tree. And she was like, why don't you just get a train? I was like, it feels childish. Feels like most of these trains that, I looked at, they're like, let's say 5 and up, you know. It seems so elementary. Like, why you want a train? You don't need that. We talking about buying Apple Watches and I want ceramic coating painting on my car to kind of spruce it up. And here I am, 44 years old, talking about I want to train. And Shatay really helped me pull the trigger on just like buying a train, just kind of honoring 8 or 9 year old me
Mhm.
that want a train set.
Mhm.
And for whatever reason, I was able to, with your help, give myself permission to just pull the trigger on the train. Train got here about 10 o'clock last night. I was already in the bed. But at around about 7:15 this
Mhm.
morning, I got up and looked at my
Like
phone
Christmas Day.
and had that Amazon delivery. I came down here, got out the bed, came and put this train up around this tree.
Yeah.
And I laid over there on the floor probably about an hour ago and just watched the train go around. And there was a little boy, that little boy in me that was just like, that's what's up.
Mhm.
This is cool.
Mhm.
Right. And just being able to say to him, I see you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's okay.
Yeah.
You didn't get it in. And it's not because of anything that my parents weren't or anything
Yeah.
that they lacked or any of
Mhm.
those things. It's just that I honor 8 year old me
Mhm.
whose requests were that small thing,
Mhm.
and for whatever reason, it didn't end up happening. I don't know, parents got me a bike or something else,
Mhm.
of the things that I asked for, but the train never came to pass. And so today, at 44 years old, I had a train to go around my tree, and I'm just excited.
Yeah, that's a win
And
for little Scotty.
that's a win for that past version of me who hadn't necessarily done anything wrong.
Mhm.
Um, wasn't naughty, just was a little boy who wanted to train. And I think sometimes it's okay to do that, to
Ye
acknowledge what we
Yeah.
needed.
And then though, how many of those little disappointments, and I wanna recognize or acknowledge that we're not gonna get everything that we want in life, but
Right.
how those little pebbles add up and start to tell us what they start to teach us what, right? So just knowing your story a little bit, I wonder if that instance is a version of something that could contribute to like you feeling like you have to either work for worth or
Hmm.
maybe you're not fully worthy for some reason to get the train. And so you
Hmm.
actually getting the train is like actually saying, no, you are worthy of this thing.
Hmm.
There's not anything you have to do, right? Like just because you exist is enough. So how many times, do those small things mount up to like a huge pebble that gets in our way towards accepting our wholeness and our enoughness. And then the other part of that is I believe so dearly in bringing the inner child with us however we can. That's why, like, you're always calling me ridiculous for rolling around, rolling off the couch. I'll do a cartwheel randomly.
It
I
is
laugh
so
at the most
ridiculous, though.
absurd things because that, like, spirit, that life, that
Hmm.
laughter, that joy that children have, that wonder,
Hmm.
who says we have to not have it as adults? Like,
Yeah.
that is, I think, it's like so close to spirit. It's like so
Hmm.
close to creativity, imagination, and that can like just make our world so much richer, so much fuller. It can make
Yeah.
my professional world so much fuller and so
Hmm.
much richer if I can have imagination and wonder and awe and
Hmm.
childlike experiences even
Hmm.
as I continue to age. And so I would love for us to, you know what I mean? I think that's one of the reasons why we're going to be amazing older parents because I want to do all those ridiculous things with
Yeah.
my kids.
Yeah. And you know, I guess I'm gonna have to talk through this in therapy as well. But also, I think a part of it is like, why you want that too? You know,
What do you mean?
thinking back to the train situation,
Mm,
like, why do you need that? All the things that we do to ourselves that say you don't need that. That's extra.
well,
It's
why not?
ridiculous. You don't need to have that. It's not a necessity. You have so many other things that you need to be doing. There's debt
Hmm.
that you need to be paying off. There are these things that you need to be doing. Why this thing?
Yeah.
Why do you need to have that? And we talk ourselves out of being good to ourselves way too often.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be material at all.
Mhm.
The base of it is we talk ourselves out of being good to ourselves
Yeah.
emotionally,
Mhm.
by convincing ourselves that we are not worthy of the trouble, that we don't deserve it because of what we've done, or that we already have too much, to be out here trying to operate in the bonus, where that is rooted, I think, in survivorship,
Yeah.
and not our best lives, and not the things that I believe that God wants for us. I believe that God wants us to have abundant lives.
Yeah. I believe that wholeheartedly. And so then any more on the haze of forgiving, loving old versions of ourselves?
Only that it is a constant journey.
Yeah.
Um, that past versions of you will show up. Past versions of me show up, and we really have to reconcile the books. We really have to look at, and I mean me in the past version of
Mhm.
myself. Really have to take a look at like what that lesson was in that season.
Mm.
Um, how even despite the choice that I made, I was still worthy of the good thing.
Mm.
Even if I didn't make a decision towards that good thing, I was still
And
worthy of it
they
then.
still did a good job.
And you still did a good job,
Yeah.
because whatever your choice was, 19-year-old Scott, um, it still was a catalyst towards getting you towards
Mhm.
this thing
Mhm.
that you learned, and this thing that you now value. Um, when when you decided that um, you wanted to live in the dorms at
Mhm.
Tuskegee rather than at home, when you decided that you wanted to not apply to any other school except Tuskegee and ended up having to go to junior college, there was that version of you seemed silly. Uh, it seemed like you're making the biggest mistake ever. Like, what do you mean you only applied to one school?
I only applied to one school. I only applied to
um,
Spelman.
but also, I was very knowledgeable that my parents did not have the money for me to go to Tuskegee. I was just gonna wish it there, and I was gonna force them
Uh-huh.
to pay for it. And there's a version of me that I had some trouble forgiving, because I
Mm.
ended up having to go to junior college for a year just because I ain't believe it, and
Mhm.
I was just gonna will it to be
Yeah.
so. But I would not, know what I know now. I would not have the experience that I had, being on Tuskegee's campus anyway, and being
Yeah.
in junior college. I would not have formed the friendships that I formed if it went any other way other than that way.
Mhm.
Um, I would not be a person who was able to think through things in the way that I do if that had gone a different way.
Yeah.
Now I am better prepared. I think through things. I'm a planner now,
Yeah, you
much better
are.
planner now,
Mm.
because I had that experience. And I forgive myself at that age for um, laying a path for me to be a smarter
Mm.
person, and to learn some lessons at a much younger age rather than to be learning those lessons at 42, 43, 44.
Yeah.
So he was important in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. That actually shares a lot with me because you are a planning ass planner, as am I. Like we both are,
Right.
but it's interesting to know where yours came from.
Mhm.
Um, how do we make this practical? How do we uh, reconcile past versions of ourselves? One of the things that's coming to mind for me is like I want to spend more time journaling, like writing the
Mhm.
letters to them. First, I would like to understand how many of them who all got the beef, so that I can, address them. But I definitely want to write them letters. I want to affirm them, say, I see you, I love you, you did a good job. Um, Maybe it wasn't right or wrong, it was just your choice. I'm proud of you
Mhm.
for just making one. You have any
That
thoughts?
was good.
You know?
That was good. And I need to sit with that for a second.
Mm,
Like, it wasn't good or bad. I'm proud of you for making the choice.
yeah.
There is a whole other past version of me that would not have made a choice for
Mm,
myself, who would have listened to someone else.
mm,
Um, but yeah, I think back to your original question, think that is the way, right? Is to reconcile the books, much in the way that any other business reconciles their books. They sit down, they look at what they took in, what they sold out,
mhm.
you know, what we need to do in order to stay in business. That's what
Yeah.
reconciling the books looks like, right? Do we need to take some discounts here? Do we need to, you know, go on IG Live or whatever it is? We are just trying to reconcile and figure out what it is we need to do to stay in business, in the business of being whole healed individuals. And there may be I think the only thing that I release myself from is trying to identify all the past versions of
Yeah.
myself that
Yeah.
need
'Cause they'll
the
show up.
healing.
They'll tell
Yeah,
us.
because they coming. Like, I ain't got to go looking for them. They there. They looking for me, and they got something to say. And I don't want to get overwhelmed thinking about the number of times that I convinced myself that I misstep. Um, in due time, they'll show up, and I'll be able to do that work.
Yeah, I think, you know, I can probably recall offhand, like, the memories that continue to come up that and it's only a couple of them, a handful of them where I'm like, "Ugh, I did that thing." And so I imagine it's it's those ones in particular.
Yeah.
Um, but talking to them, affirming them, loving them, I was gonna say something else as well around, now I'm losing my thought, but you were saying making a choice. What all were you saying? Remind me again, because I just lost my thought that quick.
Making a choice about what?
You said there were versions of yourself that you wouldn't have made a choice. You said,
That can just celebrate the fact that I made the choice, whether it was a good or a bad choice. There's a version of me that did not feel confident enough in myself to decide, you know,
okay.
that leaned on other people for advice or was like, I would be the person who would just be like, what you think? And go with
Mm,
that other person's thought.
mhm.
Right. So there's some versions of myself that didn't operate as in confidence, leaning fully into like be wrong as hell and make this decision. But it's my choice.
Yeah,
Right. There are those versions of myself, man, who I just celebrate for just taking the chance
just
on
showing
me.
up. Yeah.
Right. I took a chance on me. I didn't know what it was gonna look like, but took a chance on me. It ended up being not the best, but there was an experience that I gleaned from that.
Mhm.
But also, like, you did that shit, yeah.
Mhm. And what could it look like? Can we imagine what do we as individuals look like when all the versions of ourselves are like have what they need, are whole, are reconciled? What does that look like?
I think that it ultimately gives us permission to move to the next level of our lives, right?
But does that mean like I moved on to the next levels of my life and there are still parts of my past that I'm like,
But I feel like I can move fully into who I'm supposed to be and be able to even use this platform to talk about those things, to be able to identify that there was that little boy that wanted a train. You know what I'm
mhm,
saying? And you to be able to even use that as an example, or to even be able to think back to the time where um, I moved to Birmingham and lived with my aunt for six
mhm,
months, having my first job, those types of things. And the job didn't work out. I only stayed at it for about a year and some change, and came right back to Montgomery. But um, I needed to do all of those things, even though that may have seemed like a bad decision in the moment. I can look back and say, I was at that job and met somebody who was working at a different agency who got me my next job that
yeah,
enabled me to move back to Montgomery, and things worked out the way that they
yeah,
should have worked out. There was some loss there. There was um, some difficulties in those transitions, but I was living.
yeah.
I took a chance on myself, and it didn't work out the way that I thought it was gonna work out, but it worked out.
Yep.
And I have lifelong friends from my time in Birmingham,
Mhm.
from the person who helped me get the next job in Montgomery. Shout out to Shakita.
Hey.
um, just a lifelong friend of mine
Yeah.
who I may not have known otherwise,
Yeah.
and I think being able to tell that story, to lean fully into like the forgiveness of who I was in that moment and being able to tell about our life experiences, it propels us to the next level. Because at some point, we plan for all of these conversations to become a book, right? And to become something that is useful and written down and all those is useful now,
Yeah.
but something that can be like a written history of those things. Like, and when you know your history, you can then be propelled into your future. We can walk fully into those things because we recognize like our history, our past, the importance of it, the lessons that it taught us, and hopefully the lessons that it will help to teach other people so they don't have to experience like hurt and pain and those types of things in the same way. But also when they do, they recognize that they're not the first person people to experience that.
Mhm.
Part of those issues with forgiving uh past versions of myself was feeling like I did something nobody else did.
Yes.
Right? I did this
Like,
stupid
why
thing
am
and
I the only
nobody
one?
else did it.
Yeah.
But these conversations kind of help to inform the fact that we all kind of went through something similar like that. And the only thing that really has been missing was me being able to be honest about the fact that I went through it, you went through it in some ways, right? Other people have gone through it in some ways. And what has been missing is people having the conversation and being honest enough to
Being
be like,
normalized.
hey, there's a past version of myself that did the same thing that you did in this other realm, right? And when people are able to normalize, universalize, and be able to say, "Hey, I'm experiencing life much in the same way that other people have experienced it, but I have these tools that I can lean on because, I mean, there's a person who experienced this before and has built a bridge for me."
Can we stop there for a moment? That whole like I used to live in that space. Like I'm the only
Mhm.
one this has happened to, maybe in this way. Why does life seem so much easier for everybody else?
Yeah, we do
Why?
that.
It's so isolating. I remember one
Mhm.
of the very first questions my first therapist asked me was like, what's your relationship with shame? And that was like, why are you in my business already? And I didn't even realize it until she,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
much
yeah.
like the whole I am enough thing, until she said it. I was like, I guess I got some stuff there, but it's
Mhm.
because of all of like the decisions that were made that, you know, you don't know if other people went through the same thing, or I was really raised to be like, you keep your business to yourself, and so like you don't share with everybody what you're going
Right.
through, but that keeps you
Mhm.
isolated and it keeps you in shame
Mhm.
because there is no one to normalize the experience for you. And then I imagine that keeps that version, like eventually that version of myself learns how to deal with it and get over it the best that they can and then move on to the next
Mhm.
thing. But there's still some hurt there that just needs to be recognized and loved away. Or I don't want to
Mhm.
say loved away, loved on or loved down or whatever the preposition is.
Well, there's so much there though, right? But for me, that's the difference between moving on and actually being healed.
Mhm.
Um, we all can just move on, right? And sometimes we don't have a choice other
Mhm.
than to just move on,
Mhm.
and then we're leaving behind us this unhealed version of ourselves and this unforgiven version of ourselves, and that person is still there with the shame of the misstep that we made,
Yeah.
and we are entitled to guilt, right? I'm guilty of it, I did it, convict me, whatever. um we should not be carrying the weight of shame,
Shame. Yeah.
because shame says I'm not worthy of moving
Mhm.
forward because of
Mhm.
what I'm guilty of. I
Mhm.
could be guilty as hell, but I'll be damned if I let Lil Scott be ashamed
Yeah.
of those choices that he made.
Yeah.
The guilt taught me a lesson. The shame is not a weight I need to be carrying,
Yeah.
because shame says you're not worthy of the thing that you wanted, even though you've moved on. Shame says you're not worthy of ever having that because of that one mistake that you made.
Yeah, like just bring it back to Auntie Brene. Brene Brown is a shame
Hmm.
researcher, and we love her work. And we were both really impacted by Darren Greatly. And the way that she breaks it down is that guilt is the action, is the behavior, and shame like takes on you like take on an identity, or like it's about the person,
Hmm.
and we should always be able to separate what we did and not take it on as who we are.
Right.
And that's exactly what shame is. Like you
Hmm.
are whatever the label is
Hmm.
because you had that experience.
Hmm. Because you did that thing,
Right.
then that becomes like the totality of your identity, and it's not.
Yeah.
It's something that you did. It's not who you are.
Yeah. I think this really helped me. Just I can think about all the moments I may have felt. I don't want to say all, the biggest moments I may have felt ashamed, and like love on Shate during those moments. I can imagine how freeing, liberating that would be, even for 40 Shate.
Mm. I think we liberate ourselves and then we liberate our people, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can't talk to anybody else about getting free from those things until I forgive those past versions of myself.
Yeah.
That's kind of what liberation is supposed to look like. Like, get free
Yeah.
yourself and help other people get free.
So imagine a squad. You got a whole team that you championship game, and you need them to like win this level of whatever the thing is, the season is. And the team is all of your past yous, all little Scotties, middle teenage Scotties, early adulthood Scotties. What's the main thing you would say to them to rally them?
The main thing that I would say is just get in the game.
Mm.
No matter what, we got a plan, a backup plan to get us through, and we gonna win. All you got to do is get in the game and play your best. Show up as the best version of you for right now.
Mm.
Get in the game, and we got a plan to get through.
I like that.
What about you?
I would say, I love you. I would say, believe, trust in your magic. And I think I've said to you before, I spent so much time sleeping on what I was capable of.
Yeah.
Just diminishing my own light. Like I didn't even need anybody else to do that for me. Like I was over here like, you ain't all that.
Yeah.
Like, it's all right.
We do that sometimes in the name of like keeping ourselves grounded.
Yeah. But I would just say I love you. Trust and believe in your own magic. And no matter what happens, I cannot be any prouder of you than I am in this moment.
That's good stuff.
You like, I would just love just as is. Like, I don't care what you do, you're enough. I love you. I see you. That thing, that light in you, own it.
Yours so much cooler than mine. Can you talk to Lil Scott?
Yeah. I got it. I'm gonna holler at Lil Scott too.
I just told Lil Scott, just play me, bro.
No. All right. We usually have what? Music for the moment. This conversation was really good. It's really good. Is the music on me?
Music is on you this time. Like, what does this moment feel like?
This was a difficult one to find a song for, to find a mood for, but one that I think I'm settled on is Just the Two of Us.
Mm.
Who is that? Grover Washington, Bill Withers.
Mm-hmm.
Forgive me, jazz artist person, if I'm saying your name correctly, but I definitely know Bill Withers is on it. But the idea of, or just the lyrics of, just the two of us, we can make it if we try, is just, it felt so just right for this moment. Like,
Yeah.
we're gonna be all right.
Mm-hmm.
I see you. Just, I'm not letting you go. You're with me for forever,
Mm-hmm.
ever. You don't have to hide in the
Mm-hmm.
shadows. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have to raise up and cause havoc, wreak havoc in my life either.
Right.
Like, I welcome you on this journey, and I
Yeah.
also love you, and I forgive you, and I see you. So just
Yeah.
the two of us, we'll make it if we try. Just the two of us. How you feel about it?
I love it. Actually, I think about what the original version of the song was meant to be. Um, I like this better. Just the two of us.
Yeah.
Just kind of, we're gonna be all right.
We gonna be all right.
And I don't have to view you as
that would have been a good one too.
I don't have to view you as a trigger or some bad thing that's coming forward in my life and presenting itself as you, and I accept you for the version of you that you were. I know that was the best you could do.
Yeah.
At that time.
I honor you. I appreciate you. Yep. That's it.
Absolutely.
This was a beautiful conversation. I feel inspired to actually go pick up my little journal and get to getting.
Well, little Scotty, I bought you a train shot. We about to wait until it gets dark, cut the tree lights on, and them cutting the train on. We're just gonna sit there and watch that thing.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. Well, like we always say, life will always present us with a haze, but we all have everything we need within us to navigate through it.
And you're not alone. Mm-hmm. So thanks for joining us this time, and join us next time. We all gonna continue to take the journey together. Peace, y'all. We love you.
All right.